Hey there, I'm Tony from Marathon Mates, and welcome to episode number 35 of the Flying RuNR Podcast. Now, as you may know, me and my wife, Sharon, are running the Tokyo Marathon this Sunday. So on this episode, we are talking about everything that Sharon and I need to know about the Tokyo Marathon. Are you ready to run? Let's go.
Welcome to the thrilling world of the Flying RuNR, brought to you by the Marathon Mates.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Flying RuNR Podcast. On this episode, we are talking about the Tokyo Marathon, which is being run this Sunday. As many of our longer term listeners would know, I'm running the marathon this Sunday with my wife Sharon. I've had many ups and downs in our training for this event. I still can't believe I'm where I am, to be honest, but training's done. And we're now getting ready to jump on that plane and hit the start line as we aim for that wonderful thing called the 6-star medal. But before we do that, I'm joined by Tim and Tara, who are going to help share their experiences about Tokyo and the marathon from last year. So Tim and Tara, welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, we're looking forward to this episode. Tokyo was awesome for us. So as most of our listeners know, Tony and Sharon and Tim and I tried to do it in 2020 and it got cancelled about a week and a bit beforehand. So we were just recapping that we were in Tony's photos from 2020, which is quite bizarre. But we're looking forward to seeing you get your 6 stars and you and Sharon.
Yeah. It's going to be amazing. And yes, as Tara alluded to, we did not know Tim and Tara back in those days. So we were just there on a bit of a holiday after the Tokyo Marathon was cancelled. And as I'm filming, the person that ended up winning the Tokyo Marathon, running down that final stretch, there's two male men, trying to keep up with the winner, running down the other side. And on closer inspection, Tim Ellis was one of those people. So.
Yeah. And I kept up with him for about 150 meters. These, they run fast even at 41.9 kilometers or whatever it was at that point of the race. He was still running fast.
It was unbelievable rewatching that because, you were sprinting and I'd probably give you 120 meters, not 150. You kept up. But so I'm really excited about this episode because hopefully we'll get a couple of tips and tricks, as will our listeners and our viewers. But before we do that, we need to talk about training. And as we know, you're training for Boston. So what are we, 6 or 7 weeks to go? Is that in my head? Is that close to the mark?
6 weeks, I think.
Yeah, I think we're probably about 6 or 7. I don't know. I'm just sort of all in a blur of, when you get to that marathon point in your training and you just go, why are we doing this again? Why are my life choices so bad?
6 weeks. I know where we're up to in our training plan. 6 weeks to go from when this episode's released on Friday. So, yes, we're into the pointy end. We're into the long distance part of the training program. We've done 28 kilometers just this weekend gone by. We'll have a rest one this weekend. We will give up on the long runs and just do some hills and a short run maybe this weekend, just to give the boys a bit of a rest. And then we'll do one final push in our program where we'll go up 32 kilometers and peak at that before we start to taper down the other side. So we're not quite there at the end, but we can see the end of the training program. It's not that far away.
Yep. The memories. Memories of doing 32 Ks.
But we did finish our little training block yesterday after we did 28 Ks. We did finish it with a chocolate thick shake from McDonald's. So
that's awesome.
yeah. So we're thinking about you. We definitely got 2 chocolate thick shakes, 2 large chocolate thick shakes, and we may have snuck in a couple of chicken nuggets too.
Oh, okay. Well, you're allowed to. You've had a good run. Park run. What did you do?
Stones Corner. Stones Corner quite often gets flooded. So as soon as Brisbane gets more than 3 drops of rain, poor Stones Corner is out for the count. It was drizzly, but not enough, obviously, to cancel it, which was good. So we actually made it to Stones Corner this weekend. It's a lovely, lovely course, actually. It's got some undulations and nice people. I enjoy Stones Corner Park Run. It's a nice park run, and they've just updated the course. They've redone everything, so it looks really good.
Yeah, no, we really enjoyed it. So yeah, couldn't. It's one of those runs where I think all the training we're doing is just kicking in, because we found it. Both of us, we found we just went out pretty easy, but our times were quick, and every kilometre, both Tara and myself, every kilometre we ran, we got faster in every kilometre, and it wasn't an intentional thing. It was just the way we were feeling on the day. We ran to feel, and ran pretty quick times for both of us. So we're pretty happy with where we're at. The bodies are really clicking in at the moment, and just got to hang in there for 6 more weeks, and we'll be right.
Yeah, the down week this week will also be of great benefit for you, I'd imagine, just having that little bit of a slowing down and then kick-starting it again. It's always. Now, last week was a Park Run the World?
Yes.
This weekend was the Stones Corner one that we just did. Yep. Yeah. So everyone just wears their Run Down Under shirt.
Or Run the World shirt.
Run the World shirt. So some of you may remember Travis Island from our previous episode. I can't remember which episode it was, but it was
3 episodes ago.
Yeah, all about Run Down Under, Run the World. But if you wear one of the Run Down Under shirts or Run the World shirts, Travis will actually donate $1 from every person that wears that shirt and is photographed in it. He will donate $1 to Parkrun. So Parkrun clean up pretty well out of the weekend from Trav's donation, which is really good.
Quite a few $1,000, and it doesn't have to be just run here in Australia. It can be run at any parkrun anywhere in the world. You take Run Down Under or Run the World in the photo, and then he counts all the people with singlets, and $1 from every person goes directly back into Parkrun.
Well done, Trav. That's a great initiative. And I saw so many shirts, Run USA, Run Southeast Asia, and all of these other shirts through the social feed. So congratulations to everyone for supporting that. So, well, not much to report on our training at all. We did 10K on Saturday, and a bit of a stroll on Sunday, and we did nothing this morning. We're recording this on Monday, and fundamentally, I don't think I'll run again until Saturday, where we do the 5K international international friendship run in Tokyo, and of course on Sunday when we do 42.2. But taper's going well. It's and I'm enjoying it. So.
I guess the other thing for our listeners is, how's the ankle feeling and the leg?
Yeah, really weird actually, because as all my other ailments tended to disappear, so hips good, back's good, groin's good. The ankle said, "Hey, don't forget I'm the master of all this, and I'm going to give you some pain." So. I went to see Nikki, my remedial massage therapist, there on Saturday after our 10K. She unlocked the ankle because it was just tightening up again. And yeah, it's a little bit worrying, but I'm not too concerned because I'll strap it pretty tight. And then I know that I've got a good 4-week break where I don't have to put it under enormous amounts of stress. So, but everything else is good. I can't believe it. Back's come really good. The hip was really aching probably 3 weeks ago, and it's gone away. So just my ankle, and I'm pretty certain that I should be right to go. So, but let's move on to the news. Now, for some reason, the news soundtrack didn't record last week, so we just had this empty silence. So for all our audio listeners, I'm really sorry about that. Let's hope it works this time. And as we always do, we look around the world of running, and there's a fair bit on at the moment, to be honest. Vegas was run yesterday, or the weekend just gone. We've got Tokyo coming up. But Tim, what's been happening?
Yeah, I guess a lot of the news is around Tokyo, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, I guess. But all the big names are starting to arrive in Tokyo, or will be in the next few days, flying in through Haneda Airport or Narita Airport. And I guess that includes yourself and Sharon, and also the Tudgemans as well. So it'll be good to see everyone reconnect back in Tokyo. And I guess the other news, is where you stay at the KO Hotel in Tokyo is where the elites stay. So when you're in the lobby area, they're all just walking around doing their press interviews and all the rest of it there. So it's pretty amazing to see them. But I'll leave the Tokyo news for now, and I'll talk about a couple of races that have just occurred. Excuse my pronunciations of names here, but I'm going to get caught out here big time. So the Ras Al Khaimah Half Marathon, which is a World Athletics Gold Label road race that's in the United Arab Emirates, was run over the weekend. Daniel Matiko won the men's event, and Sigi Gebresalama won the women's event. It was interesting. It was a really foggy morning, and apparently at the finish line there was no greater visibility than about 50 meters of visibility at the finish line. So these runners were running with limited vision through the entire race. But the Ras Al Khaimah half marathon is described as one of the fastest half marathon courses in the world. Matiko lit up the race and won with a time of 58 minutes and 45 seconds for a half marathon. Wouldn't that be nice to be over and done with a half marathon in less than 1 hour? 58 minutes. He won by 5 seconds over his compatriot John Korora, and Azi Lasoy came third to complete a Kenyan trifecta.
Now, the interesting little did you know fact about that was Daniel Matiko was the pacer for Kelvin Kipton in Chicago.
Yes. Yeah, he was. So a little bit of a connection there, and a sad moment, I guess, where he's representing Kenya and he's also his mate Kelvin as well. So, in the women's race, the Ethiopian Gebre Salama improved her PB by more than 30 seconds to win in a time of 1 hour and 5 minutes and 14 seconds. She won by 30 seconds in front of second place Ababel Yeshashanena. Apologies from Ethiopia, but I don't get your name confused. But
Ababel, we do apologise, and I'm going to have a crack. It's Yesana.
Yesana? Okay, we'll take that one.
Not? Yeah.
All right, and then in third place was Tanzania's Jacqueline Sekulu. Sekulu. Who interestingly came third, but beat her PB by more than 3 minutes to set a new Tanzanian national record of 1 hour and 6 minutes. So some very fast times. And as I said, it was an extremely flat course. So quite an interesting one, that one. Also over the weekend, we had the Osaka Marathon in Japan. So it's always the week before Tokyo Marathon. It's quite a popular event and attracts some really big crowds, as do a lot of the marathons in Japan. Australia's own Lisa Waitman ran third in the Osaka Marathon this weekend and ran it in a time of 2 hours, 24:43, which is a very fast time for an Australian female runner. And so this sets her up very well heading into Paris. And looking at her socials over the weekend and the ones you showed me, Tara, she was very happy with what she achieved in Osaka on the weekend, but is even more excited about the training that's coming up for the Olympics in August. So I think this will be her second, maybe third Olympics that she's been to. So that's good for Lisa and good for Australian running. And then I guess the last one is just always be careful with what you promote on social media and how you post your runs up on Strava, and not to take shortcuts when you're out on courses, whether you're deliberately or not deliberately taking shortcuts, because a editor from Runner's World magazine was found to have shortcutted the London Landmarks Half Marathon and was caught out by Marathon Investigation. So for those who don't know who Marathon Investigation is run by an individual who's a private investigator, and he uses a private investigator mentality to look at results from all these races around the world and to call out cheaters. And he's very spot on most of the time. He's got so much data to prove it. He looks at their Garmin times. He'll look at their race times. He'll look at photos from the event, Facebook feeds, whatever he can get his hands on to prove cheaters and to publicly name and shame cheaters. So I'm not going to get in whether or not this editor cheated or not cheated. I know that we don't want to be defaming people. We have very small budgets of $0 for the production team. And that $0 is stretched over the ability for us to record, produce, direct, edit, promote, and pay our on-air talent. So I don't really want to get into a defamation court case and consume that $0 that we've got in our budget. So, but anyway, this private investigator has alleged, I'll use that term freely here, alleged that this editor has shortcutted the course. And there's been a bit of back and forth, as there usually is when there's high-profile people, between the individual and this marathon investigator. But it actually looks like she possibly maybe could have done something accidentally to go off the course, allegedly.
Unintentionally, yeah.
Yeah.
Instead of turning left, maybe she turned right, or instead of going right, she went left.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
She went a lot less than the half marathon course, even though her stats showed that she did. So there's some sort of a glitch or some sort of an error, and we're not getting involved in it because we don't want to be defamed.
Yeah,
and we don't want to be brought up for defamation.
I think the minute you start thinking about editing your Strava stats, there's an issue. So an issue for everyone out there. So don't get caught up in what you're posting on Strava. The run that you just did does not define you as a person. It's just a run you just did. So
it is interesting. He also doesn't call out just the fast, famous people. He calls out even just average runners. So he'll look through races. He'll look through at people's times that seem anomalies, like they've run the second half faster than the first half by, staggering amounts of time. He'll pick them out. And then, it's amazing how many people's Instagrams and Facebook pages and everything else where they've gone out and promoted themselves saying how good they are.
Well, I hope he doesn't like my Tokyo Marathon negative split last year when I did Tokyo Marathon.
No doubt
negative split a marathon.
no doubt he sussed you out, Tara.
Nothing to worry about, because I was with you every step of the way. Yeah. And there were definitely more than 42,000 steps taken on that marathon.
Yeah.
No cheating on that one.
Just the other interesting thing that I just want to talk about is the Fort Lauderdale Publix marathon. And apparently the course was over half a mile longer than what it should be. And, so the positive thing is that everyone that finished that race is now calling themselves an ultra marathoner. So well done, all you ultra marathoners. The bad thing is that some people wanted to use that time as a Boston qualifier. And of course, now that the measurements have come through that they're not entirely correct, they can't do that. So very, very interesting scenario how a major like that can get it wrong. But anyway.
Yeah, it's interesting. Those courses are checked and double checked and triple checked in order to get their ratings for the distances. So strange how that happens.
Very much so. But that's the news for this week. So let's start talking about Tokyo. And when it's the first marathon major of 2024. So a little bit of I'm sure Tim will start with a little bit of the history of the event, or Tim and Tara, of course. who the elites are that are running, apart from Sharon and I. They'll talk about the course itself. And no doubt they're probably going to ask me some questions about strategy and whatnot, which I may or may not have. But we'll see how we go. I'm sure I'll be able to talk about something. So let's start with the history of the event. I'm going to hand it to you, Tara. When did the Tokyo Marathon start and when did it become a world major?
Yeah, so Tokyo Marathon it's not one of these long-term ones that's been around forever. So it's only first held on the 18th of February in 2007. And the years prior to 2007, though, Tokyo Marathon actually consisted of 2 marathons. So it was the Tokyo International Marathon, which took place on even years, and Tokyo New York Friendship International Marathon, which took place on the odd years. In the inaugural year of 1981, when both marathons took place, it was not possible to support 2 marathons a month apart in the same city from 1982. So that's why the alternating years came into effect. The 2007 marathon represented was a representative selection race for the 2007 World Championships in athletics in Osaka. The total number of participants was set at 30,000. Of that, 25,000 people signed up for the marathon and 5,000 signed up for the 10K run. In 2012 is when the Tokyo Marathon's status was upgraded to a world major marathon and became the newest marathon major. So it's only been since 2012. So we're looking at, 14 years. So not very long in the big scheme of things. Eliud Kipchoge has got the course record there of 2:02:40 and a quick time which was just a little bit out of the world record. So and I think Bridget Kosgei has got the female course record in 2:16:02. So relatively new event.
Yeah, absolutely. So just so that I've got this right, there were 2 events that kicked off in 1981 and they ran alternate years once they realized that you can't shut Tokyo down twice in a month, which is what happens in a marathon. And then in 2007, they formed or came together to be the Tokyo Marathon every single year. And then just 5 years later, they became a major. That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they've had big numbers all the way through as far as participants go, which probably helped them achieve that major status pretty quickly. And it's been one of those events from day one, even back in 2007, that's attracted really top quality elite fields that have gone there to run fast.
Yeah.
And you'll see it when you're there. It's a relatively flat city, Tokyo. Most of Tokyo is actually built as a reclaimed land that's been reclaimed over a couple of hundred years. So most of the city is relatively flat. So it's flat, fairly fast, and offers big crowds and always has from day one.
And there's a lot of people. Oh, sorry, Tony. Yeah.
The interesting thing I think is Osaka's bigger than Tokyo in terms of numbers.
Yes, because I think that's because they can't get into Tokyo, so then they go to Osaka.
Yeah. So Tokyo's got 36,000 runners generally every year, but in those 36,000 runners, there's more than 350,000 people that actually try to get a place in Tokyo. Wow. So 1 in 10 will get their spot, whereas Osaka, I guess, can probably accommodate a few more.
Yeah, 34,000 is the maximum at Osaka. So
34. Okay,
guideline ball. I thought someone had mentioned once to me it was 50,000, but no, 34.
One of the things you'll note, Japan is a running country. They don't have much room anywhere for playing fields for large sports and things like that. They do have them, but people over there love their running. They have big college and school facilities that are all about running. and the whole country comes out and supports their runners. So it's got a proud history in running, and I think that probably helped them become a major as well.
So the other day over the weekend, Sharon and I sat back and we watched parts of the official course. They've done a car do the journey, and it's very interesting. Obviously sped up a little bit because otherwise it wouldn't have fitted into 24 minutes. But and to be quite honest, the course looks flat. It looks quite good. But Tim, what are your recollections? Because you guys have obviously run the course. What are your recollections of the course?
It was fantastic. We really enjoyed it. The course itself starts at the Tokyo Metropolitan Government Building in Shinjuku, and it's quite an iconic building. It's one of the biggest buildings in the Shinjuku area, and it's a really good place to start, namely because it's right across from the hotel you stay in. But it's a really nice, iconic start line with the building there in the background. It's quite a massive building, quite an impressive building. From there, you start to run down through the main Shinjuku and Nishi Shinjuku area, which is where all the nightlife areas are. Quite iconic. If you've watched any sort of movie with Japanese pictures in it or video, it's always got pictures of Shinjuku's at nighttime lit up. It's also the area, if you remember the Bill Murray movie where Lost in Translation, it's all set around Shinjuku as well. From there, you pass through the neighborhoods of Itabashi, Nihonbashi, which is where the 10-kilometer finish line is. So what most people don't realize is there's the marathon and a 10K race all run at the same time. The 10K race, whilst the marathon has about 36,000 runners in it, I think from memory, the 10K race has about 1,000 runners in it. So it's not a huge field.
And I think it's actually 10.6 kilometers.
Yeah, it's a little bit more than 10K.
I don't think it's actually 10Ks. I think it's 10.6.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So you sort of come down into a downhill finish, and the 10Kers sort of veer off at one stage for them, and they finish there, and you keep going. You then move into Akihabara, which is the electric light town, which is, you'll know that area because it's filled with computer games, shops and signs everywhere. So you'll see lots of Sega signs and Nintendo signs and all sorts of things in Akihabara. And then from there you come across to Asakusa or Asukusa, which is where there's some traditional temples. And at that point you come out and you turn right when you hit the temple there at Asakusa, and you'll be able to see Tokyo Skytree, which is the tallest structure second tallest structure in the world. It's the big tower in Tokyo, a very iconic tower.
And you see the Asahi
see the Asahi golden beer building, and it looks like a beer with frothing foam on the top of the beer. So
not that I've got beer on my mind at all, but you know.
Yep. From there, once you hit Asakusa, there's a number of out and backs in the course, and I'll talk about them a little bit later. But then you move from Asakusa into the district of Koto, and then you come to Ginza, which is the main high-end shopping district of Tokyo. So you'll know that when you hit it, all of a sudden the infrastructure changes. It's very high-end. It's filled with very expensive shops. Once you hit Ginza, you've got about 10 or 11 kilometers to go. If you hit Ginza, once you get up a little bit, you'll see on your right-hand side the turn off to the finishing line. At that turnoff, there's 1 kilometer to go to the finish line, but you still have another 10 kilometers to run, 5 out and 5 back. So from there, you run from Ginza out to Shinagawa, and you come through this beautiful Hibiya Park, which has got a beautiful temple in there that you run past. And then you come back the same way. As I said, it's 5Ks out, 5Ks back, and you finish in front of the Imperial Palace where the emperor lives when he's in Tokyo. And it's right outside Tokyo Station. So it's a really nice area. The last 1 kilometer is run on cobblestones, and it's probably the narrowest part of the entire course. The rest of the course itself is fairly wide. So particularly through Shinjuku when you're starting, there's lots of wide areas through there, probably 4, 5, 6 lanes of road that you can run down. And we didn't find that it got too crowded or too noisy out there. So it's not too bad, I guess. The really thing that really impressed me, Tokyo is an earthquake city, has a lot of movement, but the pavement, the asphalt pavement was probably some of the best asphalt pavement I've ever run on. It was completely smooth, no potholes, very little cracking on the road at all. So you got a very true stable ground under your foot, you're not likely to twist your ankle, Tony, which will be a good thing. But it impressed me. I'm somebody who works in construction. I build roads, and I was very impressed with the quality of the asphalt. So things that I look at. I talked about the out and back sections. There are 3 big out and back sections. And as I said, once you get to sort of Asakusa, or just before Asakusa, there's a section where you turn left, you come to Asakusa, there's an out and back section there where you go out and come back. And then before you come back to where you turned into that section, you then go back out on another section and star out. It's like your compass runs, almost like your compass runs, Tony. You're sort of going off in different directions and doing cutbacks.
Yeah.
And each of those cutbacks, you turn 180 degrees around a marker in the middle of the course. So they are a bit crowded at those markers. There's a lot of people on the course.
The good thing with those switchbacks, though, is that you can actually see where the last people are behind you at all times. So you're never faring too badly about those balloon ladies or whatever you call them, the back of people, or the buses picking you up, because you can actually see every time you hit one of those switchbacks where the back people are. So you've got a good knowledge of what you're doing there, Tony, which is really good for you. It gives you a bit of peace of mind.
Yeah. Now, did you see them? Because you guys ran.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we saw them on some of the out and backs when we'd been out and back, and then going out again and come back, and we'd see them going out with
where they were like 15 Ks behind us or so, but we still saw them.
Yeah. And we saw them backing up the road right behind them and taking all the barriers down and all the banners off the side of the road. So
but
they're very efficient.
We were a good hour or so in front of them. So don't stress.
That's the aim.
If you see them.
Not stress.
Yeah. I guess the other thing there is toilets. So we're used to on races having portaloos on the side of the road, maybe at drink stations or every mile or 2 or kilometre or 2 along the course. And there's a bank of portaloos. That doesn't happen in Tokyo. In Tokyo, they rely on public toilets. So you could be running along and there's a sign saying toilet, and you think, oh, yep, that's where the toilet is. But it might be 100 metres off course where you've got to run down a little side street to a public toilet, and you find there's a queue there, and there might only be 2 cubicles or 2 stalls or 1 urinal and nothing else there. So it is potluck. But my suggestion is to use the toilets earlier on. We found that they were less crowded than some of the ones in sort of the middle and later stages of the course.
After the start, there is portaloos, like probably around about, I think maybe 2 kilometres in, there's portaloos there. Highly recommend using those rather than waiting till later.
It wouldn't have been 2 kilometres.
Yeah, so
we just hopeful not to use them. So, but this is where Tokyo creates a lot of stress, I think, too, for runners, and we see it in the Facebook groups. Toilets are just one level of stress. Then you've got cutoffs on top of that, which are quite irrational, and understanding that they've got to reopen the city. I get all that. So you can understand the reasons why. The other area that seems to create a fair bit of angst is just that whole concept of not being able to take water bottles into the corrals. Now, in all honesty, I've never ever taken a water bottle into a corral because
they do have water in the corrals. So as you're going through there, they actually have like a like what they have like for the hydration stops on course. They actually have those in the corrals. And I don't know about you guys, this year we were allowed to take, I think, 100 mils or less of fluid as long as it was a sealed bottle. So your pickle juice is okay.
Same with us. It is. It's got to be less than, you can't have more than 500 mil on you, and each container's got to be less than 250. So which equates to so I'll have a couple of little bottles of pickle juice with me. But toilets are an interesting one because on some of the sites, people are showing that there are portaloos on the side of the road. So
there are some, but there's not many.
Yeah.
And most of them are public ones. They could be in train stations, or they could be just one that's just literally on the side of the street or down the alley or whatever. So It is a little bit potluck, as I said, when it comes to toilets, but there are plenty of toilet opportunities and there's plenty of signage. It's not like they're short of toilets. It just might be that you might have to wait a few minutes for your time to come up to be able to get into the pew. Going back to the starting corrals, though, it was quite interesting. I've never seen this in a marathon before, but it is full airport security. And my best advice for you and Sharon and other runners doing it is to get to the corrals really early to get through the airport security. They literally check your bags. They put them through scanners. You have to walk through a scanner. You get metal tested all the way through.
Well, they did for COVID. I don't know if it's still the same now, but
no, I think they still do the security. Yeah, they're full on security there and very conscious of it. But once you're through the corral, it's not too bad. There's plenty of toilets. There's plenty of space. I would also recommend maybe just taking a blanket or a throwaway something to put on the ground so you can sit on the ground in the corral, because we were standing up for maybe an hour, which didn't bother us too much. But once we were in the corral, we wanted to get our spot at the front of our corral or close enough to it. And, as a result, you've got to stand in the spot or sit in your spot for, a good hour while you're waiting. So
there is a rule with throwaway stuff as well with the Tokyo Marathon. They don't like you throwing away too much, so be careful with what you do take in. So
apparently they have
there's a lot of rules.
Yeah, lots of rules. So
have you been practicing with your Picari sweat, because that's what's on course? Yep.
Yeah, I don't mind it. Yeah, we tested ourselves back in 2020 with Picari sweat, as I'm sure you guys did leading into it. And it's I don't mind it. It's quite it's not overbearing. It's not like that orange stuff that they had in London, which just became sickly. Or the lemon lime stuff that they had in Berlin, which ultimately just becomes sickly as well. So Picari sweat's quite all right. So
yeah, we found it all right. So every drink station you'll either get water or Picari sweat, but they also get some really weird stuff there. And obviously we don't speak Japanese, and they're handing out these packets of, I don't know,
electrolytes and stuff.
Yeah, there are all sorts of weird things, and it's
lolly
like
things.
And it's just like we might just give that a miss.
Tentacles.
A little pouch of like custard or something, or apples.
Yeah,
it was like baby food stuff, and I'm like, I think I'll pass on that. I don't know how my stomach will handle it.
The other thing, just going back to the starting corral too, Tony, just my other bit of advice is to go down the day beforehand, and you won't see it set up because they don't set up the corrals until the very early stages of the morning of the race day. But to know exactly where you've got to go for your corrals. So in around Shinjuku area, there's 3 levels of road. And so whilst you think on a map, I know where it is, you may not be able to get to it the way you think you are going to get to it, because roads are blocked off, but also because they've got these 3 different levels of roads. You may be on the middle level, and trying to get access to that may require you to walk a couple of 100 meters further than you thought you needed to be able to get down there.
It's good signage though, and they will direct you where you need to go. So don't stress.
But just to ease up your sort of thoughts on it, I would get there the day before and just go for a walk around that precinct and just get your bearings and say on a map, okay, this is where the corral should be. Does this look about right?
But you'll find that the Japanese people, they're so friendly. They're very helpful. You won't get any problems there, but they're not big on the cheering. So don't expect a lot of noise or cheering on the course. It's very quiet.
Yeah, I think
they'll clap you and they'll wave.
I think I've written, they're very polite and respectful, but not too loud.
I'm going to point at a couple as I'm running through to get them cheering. So we'll see how we go.
As you go through the start, they will be waving to you, but there's no loud noise. It's very weird. So, it's nice, though. It's just different.
Yeah, and on top of that, it's nice running in Tokyo. You get to see all the Japanese landmarks, and you get to see a lot of traditional sort of temples that are, quite a few hundred years old, that survived the war years and the tests of time as well. So it's quite a scenic race. The other thing that I would mention is, it can be quite cool when you're going over there, single-digit degrees Celsius. And what we found last year is it can be a little bit chilly at times when you're running, when the wind picks up. I think I mentioned it last week or the week before as well, that you get these big canyons of tall buildings, because Tokyo is all just tall buildings. and you'll either be running into the wind or the wind will be behind you, or it's blocked by the buildings, and you think it's all nice and you're running really well, and then all of a sudden you get a cross breeze at an intersection that's like a wind tunnel hitting you from the side. So it can be a little bit interesting running. You can go through really hot and cold periods just by hitting the wind.
The first 5K was downhill, so it's a bit like London. You know how we had that nice downhill run at London? So Tokyo is predominantly downhill for the first little bit. So just enjoy that to warm yourself up and you'll be fine. You and Sharon will
pick up some time. Weather's an interesting one. I've learnt very much not to worry about weather until the day of, because I still remember London, when they were saying it was going to be cold and drizzly, and it turned out to be like 28 degrees or something. So magical sort of a day. But they are at the moment forecasting on race day at a minimum of -1. And a maximum of around 10. And once again, just to try and get your head around that, one of the hardest things is trying to pack, knowing it's going to be cold, and that instead of just running in a shirt, you're probably going to, I'll probably have 2 layers on. So just to keep some warmth happening. So, but
I won't tell you, we both ran it in singlets and shorts last year.
That's you guys, so that's all right. So if it's anything like Chicago, where I think the maximum on the day was about 14 or 15, Sharon and I both wore long bottom tights, and of course I wear shorts over them so people don't get scared. And and I normally just wear like a sleeveless vest underneath, so it helps with the chafing as well, because it's nice and tight. And but I can only do it when it's relatively cold. So let's talk. You've mentioned a couple of times, not just on this episode but on previous episodes, that you were lucky enough to see a certain person called Kipchoge at breakfast at the Tokyo Marathon, and the elites do apparently stay where we stay, which is awesome. And I'm really looking forward to, the occasional bump in, or Safan Hassan coming up to the room and talking strategy, and Elliot grabbing us for some tips, or to ask if he can come on the podcast. But who are the elites this year, Tim? Who are they? Who are we looking at?
Why do I get all the names? All right, so we'll start with the wheelchair.
It says so on the run sheet. That's why you get all the names.
I thought I left it with you to do it, but anyway.
Did you?
That's all right. I'll do it. I'm happy to do it. So in the women's wheelchair, the leading contender there, a couple of leading contenders are Eden Rainbow Cooper from Great Britain and Manuela Scar from Switzerland. Both of them have fast times of 1 hour 34. I think from an Aussie perspective, we have Madison DeRosio in there, who has a time of 1 hour 38. So we saw Maddie there last year, and we wish Maddie the best of luck this year. She's super awesome. We saw her again in Berlin and Tara had a good chat with her as well. In the men's wheelchair, you've got the usual Daniel Romanchuk, who's the guy who seems to win every race out there at the moment, but he might have a bit of competition from Tomoko Suzuki from Japan, who's also got a very fast time at the moment as well. So,
but we've also got Jake, who is a really nice guy as well. So Jake Lappin, I've met him before with Maddie. He's our Australian wheelchair runner, and he's in at 1 hour 31. So for Berlin last year it wasn't it? That was time. So he's in there as well. So
so Jake's a great bloke, and again we wish him all the best.
The interesting thing there in the men's is that Marcel Hugh, who won them all last year, isn't racing. So
might be preparing for the Olympics. There might be a bit of strategy in it. So in the women's, there's this lady called, let's see if I can pronounce this right, Safan Hassan. I don't know if you've heard of her before, Tony. She's from the Netherlands.
I heard she's got a bit of talent.
Yeah, she's the favourite with a PB of 2 hours 13 and 44 seconds. So she's only run 2 marathons, so she's still a little bit of a rookie in the marathon world. But she's got the second fastest time of all time. In there as well is Shankuli from Ethiopia and Wenjuro from Kenya. And just looking through the rest of the list of the names, there's a whole heap of nationalities and countries represented amongst the elite women. And in the men's side, one of our favourites, Eliud Kipchoge, is there running it this year. This is his warm-up for Paris, and it'll be interesting to see where he goes with this, because a couple of years ago, as we said, he set the course record in 2:02 on this course, but he took a wrong turn at that time. And they said if he didn't take that wrong turn of 100-odd metres and had to turn around and go back again, he probably would have set the world record in that race. I suspect he put in a lot of training because he wanted to go faster than Kipton maybe did in Chicago recently to set the world record and get the world record back. So I suspect he may be looking for a fast run this time around in Tokyo as well. He'll be pushed by Kip Kemoi from Kenya, as well as Kip Lagat from Kenya and Kip Rudu from Kenya, who are all fast runners and probably all trying their hardest to try and get into the Kenyan marathon team for the Olympics as well. So some pretty big names in the fields, but mostly I think it's Safan's race to lose in the women's, and it's probably Kipchoge's race to lose in the men's.
Yeah, it's so interesting, isn't it? You look at the elite women, and you've got Hassan at 2:13, and then I think you've put in the run sheet, the top 12 in each.
Yep.
So the top one is 2:13, the bottom one is 2:32. So that's like 20 minutes. You look at the men, you got Kipchoge at 2:01, and the 12th fastest in the race is at 2:05.
Yeah,
that just blows my mind how close they all are fundamentally, and just how quick we have become.
Correct. It's confusing because the 12th fastest is a person called Kenya Sonato, and they're from Japan.
Yes, yes.
Kenya.
And he's not the fastest Japanese either. There's Kengo Suzuki, which is a more traditional Japanese name.
Correct.
At 2:04.56, and it's going to be such an exciting race to watch. They do have paces in Japan, don't they? In Tokyo.
Correct. Yes, yeah. I believe they do. So we've talked about the course and we've talked about the elites. So Tony, what is your 6-star race strategy?
Fundamentally, we're just aiming to hit some milestones. So 8K in the first hour, 16 in the second, 24 in the third hour. And then we need to get 30 at 4. So at the 4-hour mark, be 30K in. And that just gives us options, fundamentally. If we hit those times, the cutoffs are not an issue. If we get that 30K, and where we were at Chicago, for example, we hit 30K at 3:55. So we were 5 minutes in front of where we needed to be. But it just gives us options then to enjoy the last. Enjoy, that's a strange word to use, isn't it, when you're 30K into a marathon? But it just gives us options that we can then slow it down a little bit. Now, in saying that 34K cutoff, we don't want that to bite us. So we will probably aim to not even think about what a shift in strategy until we've nailed that one off. And then those last 2 cutoffs, you can pretty much walk and skip and dance them all the way in based on the split time. So interestingly, that's where we're aiming for. The other thing mentally is that as you know, we Jeff, and we're both in agreement that when we get further on into a marathon, we might do double walks. And we've sort of both said, yeah, let's not do that, because once you get into that double walk scenario, it's hard then to get back into your run scenario. And so no matter how tired we are, every time a run timer comes up, we're going to run. So, but we may only run for 30 seconds as opposed to the minute splits that we do. And at least that way it keeps the legs moving. And the interesting thing for me, and not necessarily for Sharon, is that once I get into that pain area, and everyone who's run a marathon understands what I mean, you know, you're at the halfway point, which we know is about the 28K mark. My preference is to slow jog as opposed to do the run walk strategy. It's just easier for me to keep moving. And that frustrates the hell out of Sharon because she's still in that walk run mentality. But it's only because it hurts when I move into a walk and then I get back into a run. So it's easier for me to slow jog at the pace that Sharon's walking, or maybe just a fraction above. And yeah, that's our strategy. We need to be 4 hours in. We need to be 30K ish. And we should be sweet. I would be thinking any time between 5:30 and 5:40 would be awesome. But you know, just as long as we finish, that's the main thing for us. So now I did have something else that I just wanted to talk through as well in relation to the race strategy, but unbelievably it has slipped my mind. So anyway, so that's that's how concerned I am. I think we'll just front that starting line and we will love it. We're going to have a little laminated cutoffs in our pocket, so that won't even be an issue. Now, you guys know I love a good expo, and I hear good news and bad news in relation to Tokyo. It used to be good. Now it's not so good. Last year was bedlam and chaotic. So tell me about Tokyo Expo.
I hope that they have changed it from last year. I think last year was just crazy chaotic because it was the first run back from COVID. 2020, I think we got burnt quite badly with merchandise. I'm wearing a 2020 shirt. Picked it up for 5 yen, I think it was. So, like, you know,
5,000 yen.
5,000 yen, which is like $5 Australian. Like, it's like nothing. So I think they just dumped all their merchandise from 2020 and had to just sell it off. They didn't really have a lot of merchandise in the year that we went. There was not a lot of organisation for race pickup. We went on the very first day of the expo. They had sold out of all the merchandise. We stood in line for a t-shirt for probably 3 hours, maybe 3.5 hours. 2.5.
Yeah.
And it was a long line. The next day when the travelling fit crew actually went, there was no merchandise left. Like, it just had sold out the first day. I am hoping that they've learnt their lesson from last year for you guys and changed the race pickups a little bit as well. So all the tour groups were told to pick up their bibs from one particular area. It didn't go in the race bib number. You had to go and just pick it up from one area. And
the line was
it seemed to be that everyone was from a tour group because, yeah, it was almost impossible to get your
basically all the internationals pick it all up from the one spot. So we were all waiting for an hour just to get our bibs, and we had to do temperature checks as well for COVID. So it is it's quite chaotic what we found, but it is held over 2 different levels on what they call the Big Site Convention Center. So the Big Site Convention Center is a little bit out of town. It's probably 45 minutes away from Shinjuku. You got to catch at least 2 trains to get there. It's a pretty awesome looking building when you get there, but the first floor is generally race registration and the ASICS merchandise and other promotional material. But as Tara said, it was long lines once we got in there, quite chaotic and unusually disorganized for the Japanese, who are very, very ordered and structured in how they do things. There was other promotional companies and things spread on that first floor as well, but I couldn't tell you what a lot of it was because I couldn't read Japanese and understand Japanese. So if you do want to know, I'll get your Google Translate out on your phone and take you through it. But and let it translate for some of that stuff. But they were selling all sorts of things like mattresses and, futons and traditional clothes and all sorts of things in there. But there was also a lot of running products in there, particularly on the second floor. There was a lot more merch, which is traditional of what you'd get in an expo.
But we'd already stood in line for what felt like 3 days. We went to the next part of the expo. There was just as big a lines, and we're just like, Tim and I looked at each other and just gone, "No, we're not doing this again." Yeah. So yeah.
But no, you've got to do it. It is a huge expo compared to, you think of London and double it with the 2 floors. A lot bigger than what Berlin was, but it's filled with Japanese and Asian companies that we're not familiar with here in Australia. So a lot of the products are different. I think you could have even bought toilets over there as well at the expo. Wow. There's all sorts of weird things in there, but huge range of products. It just takes time, and just be prepared to line up for a lot of things.
Yeah, but no doubt.
An app for your COVID testing or anything, did you, for this one? So I think it was for 3 weeks before we flew over to Japan. We had to have an app, had to have proof that we didn't have COVID, had to do daily temperature checking and have it all in an app, and then present it at the expo as well before we could even pick up our race pass.
And then do another temperature check at the expo as well. Yeah.
So nothing like that this time. And, as you coming into the week of running a marathon overseas, it's that early part of the week. We've still got work. I've got 2 days of work to go. Today went really quick because there was a lot of meetings, but then you go on Facebook and you see all these people that are taking off and you go, oh no.
It still doesn't seem real, does it, that you're going to be running a marathon in Tokyo on Sunday?
Yeah, 6 days away. So yeah, it's going to be so cool. So, well, as I said earlier, Tim, our next run will be the 5K friendship run, but you didn't do that, did you?
No, it was a virtual run last year. It wasn't a group run. So Travelling Fit did organise a run in the park with a number of other tour groups. But I also organised, amongst those I usually do on the Travelling Fit tours, we go on
Tim just takes over, doesn't he, Tara? Just takes over.
Tim's terrible tours. That's what it got made. Or Tim's terrific tours. I think this one got called.
Yeah, and to be honest, everyone who went on my terrible tour had a fantastic time. They all raved about it. We went off to Shingashigawa Park Run. Anyone who's listening, if you want to get to Shingashigawa Park Run, highly recommend it. It's a fun park run. The people are really good. It's quite scenic. Yeah. So we did that last year. And I guess the only other thing I would note is, unlike other cities where the city has a certain vibe and everyone sort of comes out in the lead up to the marathon, Tokyo has a bit of vibe, but only in pockets around the city. You'll see some signs up on light posts and some flagging and stuff, or you might see some ads on the trains, advertising the marathon. But there's not a lot of vibe in the city that it's a world major. And I think because not everyone stays in Shinjuku, there's no sort of central core area. So most of the runners are spread out around the city, and there is no one area where everyone goes to. When we were in London, everyone would go to the finishing area on the Mall in the days beforehand, and you could see runners in that area. When we were in Berlin, everyone hung around the Brandenburg Gate area, and you'd see all these runners, and there's this excitement and this vibe. You don't get that in Tokyo. It's a big city. It's got 36 million people in there. 35,950,000 or whatever it is are just going about their normal day-to-day lives. The remaining 50,000 that's involved in the marathon are excited, but they're spread out. So it's a different sort of event. It doesn't have the same feel, but that doesn't make it a lesser event. It's still a really good event. It's just different.
Yeah, and Medal Monday isn't quite the same as it is in most other places. Definitely wear your medal around, but it's sort of not the same sort of recognition that you'll get anywhere else.
2 medals.
2 medals. You can wear both of your medals around. Yeah.
Do you still access or qualify for the 2020 medal as well?
No, I don't think so. No, I thought it was only for the 2 years after. Yeah.
If you do get a 2020 medal, but you may get that, and it comes in your race bib packet pickup. So if you get an extra medal there, that's not your medal for finishing the marathon.
Wow.
That's the one from 2020.
That's the 2020.
So, yeah.
All
So
right,
you may get that.
So just a couple of stats around the 6-star, which is what I wanted to talk about, which I forgot to talk about while I was talking about other stuff that I was talking about. So just there's 2,600 people going for their 6-star in Tokyo. Once again, it's a big number. Last year with you guys, there was 3,300, of which Terry Frew, our good friend, got his, as well as I'm sure other people that you know. So 2,600 in total. But when you look at Abbott's and the 5-star pages that they've got, there are currently 66 Aussies only requiring Tokyo.
There you go.
Right? Yeah. So
No, 4 of them.
Of which 36 are male and 30 are female. Now, at the moment, there are 353 6-star winners from Australia, right? So 210 male and 143 women. So I've done some predictions. Now, I'm not going to mention what those predictions are until I get back, because I don't want to jinx ourselves. But if you think about worst case scenario and all 66 show up at the start line to complete their 6-star, and they all do it, and because Sharon and I are quite prepared and quite happy to come last or close to last, it gives you an idea of where we're going to sit around what number that I'll get embroidered on my shirt. So, but I reckon there's probably a 20 out of that 66. I may think that maybe 20 are unable to get to Tokyo for whatever reason. You know, there's a number that have done their 5 stars back in like 2016, 2017, and then have never done another. So you think, okay, so maybe 50 people might be doing it from Australia. So it's going to be very, very interesting. I've got a predicted number, and I'll let you know how close I get to it.
You need to put it in a sealed envelope and leave it there for us for next time we see you.
You'll be able to. It's on my Google sheet. You'll be able to see if I edit it, because it'll tell you. Yeah.
All right. And what are your plans for a 6-star celebration afterwards in Tokyo? Have you got that worked out yet?
Well, I don't know what it's called, but they do a big thing there, and we're going to the big thing. So,
so the official after party.
Yeah. So they tell me that
really
there's
good.
a lot of noise. There's a lot of people. There's a lot of stuff happening that people don't necessarily know what's going on.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's a once in a lifetime. We're going to be there. We'll be at the official thing, and a couple of beers, flash me medal, and it's a very expensive evening. If we don't make it, it'll be a very expensive evening anyway, but I've got no doubt we'll get there.
Can I give you a tip? As you walk into the function centre, there is 2 lots of buffets of food, one on your left, one on your right. Ignore those, go upstairs, and they've got the same food with no people in the line.
And less
noise. So upstairs, and they serve you beer, they serve you all your drinks, whatever you want. Upstairs, nobody knows about it.
Yeah.
And wander around the gardens as well, because you can make little candy things, like Japanese candy, rice candy things, and do some origami and do painting.
Where do they hold that?
It's a convention centre, but it's like a traditional Japanese.
It's like a hotel. It's like a big resort thing.
Okay.
It took us a long time on a bus to get there.
It's about a 45-minute bus trip. But it is worth it, and the cultural celebrations that they have are worth it. It just is very loud.
Yeah. But go upstairs for your food. Don't line up downstairs.
You've just told everyone who's listening.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right, Aussies. We're going upstairs. That's you're coming with me, because I'll be peckish. So that's been illuminating this episode, and thank you so much for sharing thoughts, tips, and experiences. As always, we're coming down to winding down our episode. But before we finish, and we had a shout out from Steph on Instagram again. She was happy that we shouted her out, so we're shouting her out again. So,
and she shouted out Team Ellis Running as well. So that was even better.
So that's awesome. But as we know, it's getting a cult following. The Tim's tip. So I'm going to hand it over to you, Tim.
All right, thanks, Tony. My tip this week is not necessarily running related, but it's about getting out and going to Japan. I've been fortunate enough to go to Japan 5 times previously, and I've thoroughly enjoyed myself each time. So here are my key tips about Japan. One is they are very friendly and very respectful people. If you show respect back, it will go a long way. You don't have to know Japanese. You don't have to speak the language, but if you show them some respect, they will respect you. The food is great. No matter where you go, you'll always get good quality food. And if you're scared that you don't like Japanese food, it doesn't matter. They have Western tastes. There are Western restaurants all over the place where you can get a steak, or you can get KFC chicken, or you can get anything else over there. So don't be too scared that the food's not going to be there. It will be there. Getting around Japan, and particularly Tokyo, is very easy. Everything is train related and train centric. It can be confusing at first, especially when you look at how big the Tokyo train network is with all the various metros. But hanging there after a day or so of getting your way around on the trains, it's very easy, isn't it, Tara?
It's
to
super
work
easy.
your way around.
I did it easy.
Yep. The history of Japan is fascinating. It's all around you when you're there, and you can become very immersed in it. You can be surrounded by very ultra-modern buildings, and at the bottom of one of those buildings might be a temple, a Buddhist temple that's 300, 400, 500 years old. And you will see ladies and young children wearing very old handmade kimonos walking around the streets quite regularly as well.
And even Buddhist monks with their big hats, the big straw hats that they wear. It's quite interesting. So yeah.
And I guess the other bit is, if you can afford to and you can do it, go and stay in a ryokan, which is a ryokan, which is a traditional Japanese hotel where you sleep on the floor in futon mattresses with the sliding paper walls. You don't need to do it for too many nights, but we did it for 2 nights, and we had an absolute ball when we stayed there in traditional food. We couldn't speak Japanese, they couldn't speak English, but we had an absolute ball doing that. So give it a go. Go and immerse yourself in a new culture and really have some fun and be open to it, because you'll create awesome memories that last a lifetime. So that's my tip. Go to Japan and have a good time.
Excellent. So
just learn the word arigato gozaimasu and you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
No, Tony, the other one you need is kanpai every time. So that's cheers. Kanpai.
Okay. Thank you for that. And a little different from a running tip this week. So get out there and get to Japan, everyone. I'm certainly looking forward to it. We're really winding down now. So Tara, tell us what's happening next week.
I'll make it quick because we are very over time. Thanks for that, Tony. Next week, our episode is titled "So You Want to Run a Marathon This Year." If you're inspired by what Tony is doing next week, or by what Team Alice Running Journey does, then this is the episode for you. We will provide tips on tricks on how you can step it up to the marathon distance, and how you can go from zero to hero before the end of the year. There's going to be another great episode, and definitely one not to be missed. And before we wrap it up, Tim and I both want to wish you and Sharon a wonderful time away in Tokyo. We know you've got the effort and you're going to smash this. You're going to get your 6-star, and we want to see it when you come back.
Yeah. And also on top of that, a big shout out to Kim and Steve Tudgman, who are going to be over there with you, also going for their 6 stars. So, yeah, good luck, Tony, and pass on our best to Sharon, because we know you guys are going to do an awesome time.
Yeah, it's really starting to hit home that we are that close to this thing. It's unbelievable. So I'm really looking forward to having a Flying RuNR IPA with Steve Tudgman after getting our 6-star. And just for our listeners, that episode for next week may have a slightly different title to "So You Want to Run a Marathon This Year." It may have something to do with the tips we wish we knew before we started running marathon. So just be mindful that the title may be different, but the content's still the same. So thanks, Tara. That wraps up the episode. Of course, video is available on Spotify and YouTube. And audio is Apple, Amazon, and just about every popular podcast platform out there. We still get amazed that we rank as highly as what we do, especially here in Australia. And one of the really big podcasts, which is Believe in the Run, The Drop, they were ranked 20th and we were ranked 21st. And that's just amazing in my eyes because those guys have an amazing following. So thank you all. If you do like this episode, one thing that we do we don't have enough of is people liking the episode and giving us a review and rating us wherever you watch us or listen to us. So let us know. Please like, review. It all helps with our algorithms. And also let us know if Tokyo is on your bucket list as well. Maybe provide some tips. And Tim's trying to speak as I'm winding up.
So just one last thing, Tony. I presume you'll be doing some social lives on the Facebook and Insta pages.
Yeah, if we will. I will probably do a couple of lives from over there just to give people a bit of a sense of what we're going through, and especially after the marathon. So so please tune in, and thanks for the reminder. Tune in to our Facebook page because you never know what. We like to share the journey that we're on with everyone, and it's always positive. So remember, every step forward is a victory. Lace up, hit the road, and we're going to catch you on our very next episode of the Flying Runner. Until then, happy running.
Happy running. Good luck, guys.